Last video I did on Jack Hama, to be honest, I did it really lazy and me trying to implement facecam into my videos to avoid copyright actually backfired because I got way more copyright than before. To start though, there's one man in Baki who's literally the David Goggins of taking steroids and training so hard, you actually make negative gains. Brother in fact trained so hard that instead of getting muscles, he lost muscle. His mindset is undefeated, he doesn't have claw armor, and he doesn't have any overpowered BS martial art in his arsenal. He's straight up just an animal.
Women, money, fame, and glory. I'm strong. That's why I abandoned everything else.
But before he became that animal, his mother, who was in the special forces, met Yujiro. And if you can't tell by this innocent and not at all devious smile, this man Yujiro took her cheeks after he found out that she was a Russian spy. She ended up having Jake Paul back in her homeland. Now, after this, I had a random Baki fan fill my head with nonsense. So I went through my whole life thinking that Jake Paul's mother died from a firing squad because she was declared a traitor. Turns out though, she didn't, because she was popping up in the latest chapters like a legendary creature. To continue, Jake Paul grew up pretty much as an orphan, cause I don't see his mother anywhere in his childhood. This place he was in was the house of God, Jesus Christ. Everyone thinks Jake Paul is a demon in the Baki series, but brother is actually an angel compared to these actual demons, running around with the face of a demon literally on their backs. I cannot believe that someone made a drawing of Jack Hama in this way. And as a community, I am so disappointed that this was let off the hook. This was posted on the Baki Reddit and it's still up there with all the love in the world. Guys, give me your thoughts on this because I'm not letting this slide, okay? The artist is on my hit list. I got a bounty on him. A $50 million berry bounty on their head. Capture them, boys. Capture this fool. Jake Paul kept himself alone with the man above. He honed his hatred towards his father, Yujiro, who did not accept Jake as his son, due to him, quote-unquote, not having the Hama blood running through him. He's talking about his own blood. It doesn't make any sense, so Jake Paul kept on training. He didn't stop and kept on going and going. This brother would train under the watchful eye of Jesus, with sweat pooling beneath him. His mindset at this age, already untouchable. The mindset of a warrior. Jake Paul actually reminds me of Guts. He's literally him. Jake Paul had his mother R-worded, and Guts had his girl R-worded. The only difference in this is that instead of an overpowered fanboy that he has to bring vengeance upon, it's the ultimate booty warrior, Yujiro Hama. Now, this man Yujiro was not no pushover. His testosterone was known for being so high that he saw hairy men as women. And he's fought against all of the United States and won. So it's clear why Jake Paul was always training like crazy. Albert Einstein ended up taking interest after witnessing Yujiro Hama violate a polar bear. He wanted to replicate the same thing, so he tracked Jake Paul down. But instead of finding some buff child of Yujiro, he found a twig crack addict. Albert Einstein was shocked and began beating this brother up for no reason. Jake Paul had been training so hard and so much, his body couldn't keep up. After bro stopped beating him, Jake Paul told him to wait till he's done and then left like nothing. So the two went back to the alleyway to do a dope deal. Albert Einstein told him he had something that could enhance his strength to impossible levels. Jake Paul didn't really bother questioning it and said, bet, but I don't have any money. But I'll suck your... Albert Einstein was not about that life, so he ended up giving Jake Paul the experimental vitamins for free. After gulping it down, Jake Paul noticed an insane increase in strength. His body was no longer a twig, and he became extremely strong. He now could do what Yujiro Hama could, like violating this innocent giant polar bear. It was a female too, because like his father, beating women gives you 1000 plus testosterone. Jack Hama became a real menace after this, and the doctor who had been supporting him was like, you need to stop. But Jack Hama couldn't. He was like Michael Hearn now. He kept taking more and more. He was pretty much like, my hairline is so cooked anyways. Let's keep going. This got so bad. Einstein, after Jake brought back a giant polar bear corpse to his room, decided, what have I created? I can't live with myself anymore, and went, oof. Jake Paul did not care. He wanted to defeat his father to prove something, that he was not a failure. So he joined a tournament where the strongest in the world would come and participate in a no-rules fight. His brother Baki Paul was also here, and he was steamrolling through the competition. Jake Paul first had a face-off against this guy though, who learned martial arts at a McDonald's. He made sure to let Yujiro, who was aura grinding, know, I'm in vengeance. When he began, the dude began approaching Jake like a dangerous animal, then ran up on him, about to do something, but ended up just chewing on Jake's nuts. Dude was done for before he knew it, so Jake grabbed this man's skull, brought it up, and began crushing it. After pushing the dude away, Jake grinned like a demon and performed the nastiest uppercut known to mankind. This made the man do so many backflips that Jake Paul had time to walk away and contemplate how he was going to violate his next opponent. His father though suddenly jumped down like Spider-Man. Everyone thought they were about to fight. The two just began roasting each other though, with Yujiro prepared to take a fat dump right in the middle of the arena. Baki Paul stepped in before things got heated, but it wasn't to defeat Yujiro. He just wanted to PP block Jake Paul from throwing hands with his dad. After Jake Paul was like, damn, I feel sorry for you, Baki Paul tried to punch him, but Jake was like, here, you can have your fist back, then walked off casually. Yujiro began beating the brakes off Baki after Jake left. The domestic abuse in this series is crazy, so prepare yourselves. This big dude in chains is Jake Paul's next opponent. He's a freak of nature, so this should be freaking awesome. He's representing Russia in this tournament, but after the representative died, he was like, looks like I'm gonna have to use this. It's this tiny key. The dude begins acting like he's some sort of god level threat, and after embarrassing themselves trying to break the chains apart, he just unlocked it like a civilized person. This goofy dude, Chihara, appeared looking hella goofy, with missing teeth and crap. Dude literally looks like a hooker with no teeth. The hell is this? And the hell happened to the Russian dude? He looks terrifying as hell now. I know Baki has some goofy faces, especially in the older series, but Chihara should not be looking like this. Chihara tries punching the dude's head off, but it did absolutely nothing. He just gets grabbed like a little girl and thrown into the ceiling. The boss of Chihara appears and begins throwing hands with the Russian dude. After he recovered, the boss noticed Chihara passed out, and the Russian dude, seeing this chance, grabs him and suplexes him into the marble floor. It made dude do a not a handstand, but a headstand. After more glazing, Chihara got up trying to avenge his boss, but Jake Paul appeared and snapped his neck like a twig. He was here to look at his new opponent, this Russian guy, and then walked off saying, you have to be ready. Jake Paul first has to face off against this smaller fighter who begins praying and lets Jake approach his time. Jake punches but gets comboed like 50 million times. The dude suddenly realizes something is wrong. His arm for some reason is injured. He knows he didn't do this himself and realizes Jake Paul definitely did something. Jake Paul continues attacking him and the dude actually weaves all of these punches, then counters him with a flip. As he's curb stopping him, his foot suddenly gets licked. Your feet, sell them to me for $100 each. While Jake Paul would do anything to win, he wouldn't cheat. The judges search him to make sure he isn't carrying any weapons besides these guns. No one knows how the other dude is getting injured, but they're about to learn. The dude tries to make it quick by comboing Jake, then begins fingering his throat. But Jake Paul just says, get this out of my face, then begins cutely nibbling on it. The dude is ticklish, so he tries breaking free by beating this pitbull up, but this just causes him to get thrown away. Jake approaches him and the dude is looking like a Make-A-Wish kid. So like a rich celebrity when they see people in need, Jake Paul spits on him like a peasant and finishes him off with an uppercut. Even Baki was like, you did not have to do that. Kozue, who is Baki's girl, encountered Jake and the Russian dude having the lowest IQ dialogue I've ever seen.
That's right. They never could keep me chained on a leash.
So you think this is joke, huh? Grappling is supposed to be fight between men. You used it like woman or child.
Whatever it takes, comrade.
Dude randomly tackled the wall and told Jake Paul, I can't wait to get nibbled on. He made Baki's girl crap herself and she begins crying all over Baki. After Doppo, who's a karate legend, messed up a young American boy, Yujiro and him has some beef, but this buff long-haired chick popped out with his crew of goblins. The reason why I want to talk about this is because I want to ask y'all, is that freaking Jake Paul? Sometimes he looks like a side character and sometimes he looks like a main menace. But right here, he looks like just a random side character. Besides Jake Paul looking more goofy in these scenes, his opponent was Zorggon, who just got done slaying a giant snake with his bare hands. He also got done carrying a car full of coal up Mount Everest. So I'm not really sure if Jake Paul is gonna do any good against him. Jake Paul is nowhere to be seen this time. Well, that's cause this brother is in the prison showers gulping down every gummy vitamins he could find. In fact, fact, he took so much that when this dude entered the bathroom and saw Jake, he shat himself. Before we watch Jack Hama go on a massacre, if you want to support the channel and see more videos like Baki or Kagan, show some love by subscribing or checking out the limited time merch. I made the design and chose the fabric myself. Also, if you're in America, I can ship directly to you in a couple of days. 7 days left on it, so if y'all love Baki and these type of videos, you can show your support. Jake Paul began walking out of the bathroom and towards the ring, like he was holding in the fattest turd of his life. He might have taken laxative instead of roids. At least the two monsters are finally ready to throw down. After they both walk away like it's a gun duel, Zorggon instantly ran towards Jake. He's a wrestler, so he rams Jake into the wall. This stood over him. As Jake went for a hug, the dude takes a hold of him and suplexes him into the sky. This was some superhero level strength. Jake manages to land gracefully, but this Russian menace started thinking that he was a ballerina and randomly flipped in front of Jack, punches him over and over and over. He's disrespecting Jake so badly right now. So Jake tries to counter him with a punch. His arm gets grabbed though and once again suplex into the ground. This dude Zorggon loves this move. Jake must have loved it too cause his eyes are rolled back and he's tooted up. Jake Paul began taking the worst beating in anime, but the backstory started kicking in. It took a while, but after having his cake in the air, like he just don't care, thrown into the ground and completely laid out. While he was getting choked, he decided he wasn't a golf girl with daddy problems and tried breaking the dude's entire arm. The Russian manages to stop himself from falling, but Jake opened his mouth and started digging in. He made this guy look yummy.
The flavors are melting on my tongue. This really hits the spot.
He finally got thrown off, but dude is like, "My buddy, it's not for you to nibble on." He began fighting again, but Jake sneaked him and comboed him so hard, dude flew and still got caught by a mean combo. After 20 million shots to the face, the Russian finally drops and Jake begins flaming this guy's motherland. He wasn't taking any of that disrespect, so he hugged Jake, and Jake said, "I like hugs too," and showed him why Roy strength is much greater than natural strength. Jake stops this Russian dude's suplex and pulled a Uno reverse card on dude. The dude's now tooted up in the air, so Jake stood over him, whiffing the air, then uppercutted him into the air. The Russian thinks Jake had a stroke mid-fight, but Jake was actually just preparing to figure him so hard that he tore his freaking ribs off. The Russian dude somehow didn't die and tried choking our brother, but he just got finished on with a punch that straight up sent him to heaven. Jake's next opponent this time was his usual opponent, a retired old man. He made sure to take some extra steroids this time to really boost his strength. Brother then randomly pulled out a coconut and began eating it. He's showing off what that mouth do. Old man was like, "Hell nah, young blood. This is how you're supposed to elegantly do it." The fight begins and like the real Jake Paul. Jake Paul tries beating on the old man and somehow misses point blank range. Everyone is frozen at first, till Jake tried jump scaring him. The old man though tricked him and spat on him. Jack then began acting like a dummy and tried swimming on land. He gets hit by his own move because of this and laid out. The old man began jumping on him and fingered his throat with his toes. Jake wasn't done though and got up like he didn't feel a thing. Turns out he bit the old man's feet without pain. Jake started wailing on him. This was a trick, and after getting injured, he realizes he might be cooked. He was so scared, he stopped moving and Jake tried devouring him whole. The old man weaved him, but got knocked down by a knee. Jake then opened his big mouth, but old man dodges it again. He keeps having to avoid the nibble of death, but Jake manages to grab him, only to get flipped by the old man. The old man realizes this dude won't stop no matter what, and he ends up getting tackled. Brother knew he was cooked and just accepted his fate. After digging in, he started lifting the old man up by his teeth, but the old man performed another Aikido move. He then got down on his knees to show Jack how to really use one's mouth. Jake didn't want to see all that and tried to sucker kick him, but the old man flipped him once again. Jake then got up though and reached out to touch him. As the old man tries stopping him, he gets bit. Jake realizes if he moves slow and gentle, the old man would be helpless to his charms. He began affectionately beating this old man up like Jake Paul did to his retired opponents. After the dude lost, he tried holding Jake's hand, only to get finished into oblivion. He then died while glazing Jake. Jake later gets stopped by this buff chick. She's telling him to pull out, but bro has no intentions of pulling out from this tournament. She tries to attack him, but he gets freaking folded like an omelet, which Jake just walks off like nothing. The chick was worried that if he fought anymore, he was gonna die from all the roids he was taking. Jake didn't care though. He just wanted to win. And while Baki Paul was busy eating nuts, enjoying his meals, sleeping on his girlfriend's lap, and having a friendship moment, Jake was in a dark alley, shooting it up and taking more of his vitamins alone. He's trying to make sure that he stays healthy for this battle, and there's no better way than taking more healthy vitamins. The brothers finally meet, which Jake is really out here dripped out. He's really serious this time because he's got his coat out. He even had a talk with Yujiro where he almost took his head off. This whole time, Baki didn't know Jake was actually his brother. Jake knew. He knew damn well and looked pleased to see him. After shaking hands and sharing words of a warrior, the fight began and they were walking towards each other like lost lovers. Then exchanged fists to the face. Jake Paul and Baki Paul had each other's noses, then began fighting like stiff action figures. This fight had less techniques than the fight you'd be seeing in the hood. Jake doesn't know it, but Baki definitely got mad because he rizzed up his girl before the fight.
Who would leave a pretty girl like you all alone? Pleased to meet you, Miss Kozue. My name is Jack Zama.
He already knows my name.
If I were your boyfriend, I'd quit fighting so I could stay with you. Just stare into your eyes all day. Those beautiful eyes of yours.
Huh? Hey! What do you think you're doing?
If you guys don't know what happens when you mess with Baki's girl, then go watch my Ali Jr. video. This fight kept going on, where Jake eventually got Baki in a weird position and began beating his face in. He then tried jumping on the bed, but Baki dodged it. They both charged at each other, but Jake held his hand and tried biting him. Baki manages to counter and knocked him down, and was now the one comboing him. He then put Jake into this chokehold. Everyone thought it was over for Jake, but this brother stood up like a G, which Baki was like, wait, I've seen this movie before. Jake then just pried his arms off and threw him off. He was crying, which shocked everyone. I can't lose. You don't understand. I can't lose. After a sad backstory of his mother, he began beating Baki and showing him the pain his mother went through. Baki gets beaten badly, but he still manages to stand. I guess I'm just lucky. Let's get started. Jake ran on him, but Baki knees him. He was then hit with an uppercut that destroyed all of his teeth. Jake was thrown into the fence, but he freaking bit into it to stop himself from dying. Brother then stood up and looked up at God like... then tried nibbling on his own brother. Baki kept dodging but got caught. Jack performed a gator roll that tore Baki's bicep. He began bleeding badly. His vitals were hit. Jake let him know that he was gonna die in 3 minutes due to blood loss. Baki just smirked though and didn't care. He wrapped himself up and took a fighting stance. The two hit each other, but Baki was the one who got sent flying. As Jake walked over to Baki, Baki's girl begins crying and saying, "This isn't the way! Stop the violence and start being vegan and dyeing your hair blue." Baki was trying to die in peace and just told her, "Be quiet." She just sat back down cause she knew Baki had plot armor. He took Jake and managed to escape and put him into this neck-breaking move. But Jake didn't let it happen and threw him off, then dragged him towards his mouth. Baki though pulled out a BS move that blinded Jake Paul, and I'm pretty sure they actually made this up. Baki used it to give Jake the hardest back shots of his life. Now Jake knows what it was like to be his mother. Baki then managed to break Jack's arm completely. This could go either way. Jake Paul realized Baki had paw armor, so brother decided to also summon the power of paw armor, but instead got constipation. You already know a man becomes a beast when he wants to crap, but can't crap. Everyone in this moment was scared for Jake. He was about to die from an overdose. He lunged at Baki and punched him with his broken arm. This only caused his damaged arm to become even more deformed due to the impact. This might be it, boys. It might actually be over. Jake still approaches while his entire body was cramping up. He kicked Baki to the fence as Baki fell. Jack smiled, not realizing he sold his very soul to win this meaningless battle. He began losing control of his body and spazzing out. The roids he took all came out as they came into his body. The essence of his strength was all lost during this moment. The annoying chick comes back over to grab him like a child, only to get backhanded into the underworld. Jake freaking stood up, and what was left was only the pure hard work and devotion he put towards obtaining his strength. Jake Paul dashed at him and began pummeling Baki. He was overwhelming Baki with his insane attacks. Baki was taking nut shots over and over as well, but finally had enough. As Jake was on Baki and giving him permanent brain damage, he stopped mid-punch as this dude, Baki Paul, had that plot armor kicking in. He pulled Jake off and slammed him into the ground. As Jake tried getting away, he was put into a chokehold. What was that on your back? Baki let him know this was his final move. If he could survive, Jake wins. Baki squeezed him till things started rippling. Jake was doing everything to stay conscious. This was the tightest chokehold I've ever seen. And as things seemed to be coming to a close, Baki picked up Jake by the neck and everyone became shocked when his back resembled that of a demon. Jake couldn't hold on anymore and his teeth broke under the pressure. Was it over? It was. Jake finally fell into darkness. He had lost this match. Baki, his brother, was the victor. This only proved that he was a failure. It proved that his father Yujiro was right. He indeed was a failure, and that was why he was abandoned. He still held up his brother's hand to show respect. Baki also worked hard. There's nothing to discredit. The battle was absolute peak. Jack disappeared and arrived like he promised to face his father, who straight up called him a disappointment. As Yujiro walked away, Jack lunged at him in desperation. Yujiro just straight up made him hurt himself. Jack was roasted, then slammed into the pavement. This menace, Yujiro, walked off, laughing, praising only Baki. If you guys want a continuation, comment down.